Okay, so now I have my plate on the wall, leveled off. Now I'm going to deal with the inverter. Deal with the charge controller. These are the wires that are going outside to the solar panels, and these two are going to be the wires that connect directly to the battery. So let's get this wired up. Just flip it over. Use a smaller screwdriver for the panel on the back, as we have to access the screw terminals. So this is a very simple, easy install. Okay, now we're going to take, as you can see, load, battery, and PV. And right now we're working on the battery wires. So plus and minus, plus being red. By the way, this is 4-gauge wire. It goes up to 95 amps. We do not have 95 amps in solar right now, but this is a 100 amp charge controller. So we're going to probably do about maybe 85. So I'm using 4-gauge just to be on the safe side. That way it's maximized just in case I decide to add a little something extra later. And then there goes the negative. Charge controllers are really easy to install. Pretty much just battery, PV, and that is it. Load is if you want to just plug in a load that comes directly out of the unit, which will be generally 48 volts. It equals what the battery input is. So if you run in something that's 48. But that's something that we're not going to use. I hardly ever use those. I always just use the battery and the PV because everything else is wired up. So I'm going to strip this 4-gauge. And like I said, this is coming from the PV. So we're going to plug it into the PV section. And if you wonder why my wire is so flexible, it's actually Weldon wire, because you can get Weldon marine grade, and that's generally what I always carry. I always do Weldon marine grade because it's very easy to work with without any problems. It does have a lot of strands. That way it makes it really flexible and still has great conductivity. I don't like using the normal wire that you get out of Home Depot and Lowe's because that wire is too tight, too stiff, too hard to maneuver. Okay, so now we're connecting the PV, the plus. Now the breakers to the solar panels are turned off. I advise you to always make sure that you have no input to the wires before trying to connect stuff. Sometimes people do that and there's always a jolt of electricity. And that is pretty much it for putting this back together. Now after, I'm going to hang it up, but right now let's just finish this up. Put the safety plate back on. Now also, what we got with the kit is a cloud box. Cloud box gives me Wi-Fi or Bluetooth access to the controller, so I can view the state of the batteries, the input from the solar, and everything else. And we're going to have to add that to our phone app later, but right now, pretty much I'm just going to plug this in. It goes into the RS485 port. If you notice the two ports on here, temp RS485, but we're going to use the 488. That's the temperature, and these are 485 ports. So I'm going to use that port. I will get this all mounted up. Now I got to try to put this back on and hang it up, which can be kind of tricky. I think I got it. Make sure you get the bottom one too. and the bottom one's on. Now what we normally do is run through conduit. But like the rest of my videos, because I'm trying to do this quick for connection, that way we have power, I'm going to come back and run the conduit later. Right now I'm going to go get my stapler, which is pretty much a stapler for wires and pipes and things of that nature. And I'm just going to tack this up here temporarily. And then that way later on I can come back and make it look a little bit more pretty, like up here with the conduit and stuff, as you can see over there. But that I always do after the fact. I like to get everything working instead of running through conduit, and I check voltages and something might be wrong, then I got to go back, redo everything all over again, maybe get a longer wire, reroute the conduit. So I always like to connect everything fully, get it temporarily tacked up, and then I go back and start to do all the conduit and the junction boxes. Well, once again, I'll get this all stapled up, turn it on, and then we can see it work.